Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. The Chinese biolab that ended up getting found in Las Vegas over this weekend, it's going to be a bit of a problem, and you're about to hear why. Because they knew about this lab years ago, or so it's being reported, and they did nothing about it. And they knew about that lab because of what took place over inside of California a couple years ago when they raided the biolab out there. There's new footage that just ended up coming out last night from Las Vegas Metro as they gave a press briefing letting you know what they ended up finding there. They did, in fact, end up detaining one guy from over inside of the biolab. Great. So we got one suspect in custody. There were several other residents that were living there. They ended up going to the garage. They found a bunch of vials of stuff, and they don't know what it is, so they had to send it off to get it tested. Sounds eerily similar to what we discovered over in California just a couple of years ago in Reedley, California. And in that lab, they had some extremely scary stuff. I dug a heck of a lot deeper into this than I think I actually wanted to, and found a lot more information on it than I really wanted to. And one of you guys asked how many of these labs exist in the United States the last time I brought this up and talked about it. And the truth is that there could be upwards of 500, you heard that right, upwards of 500 of these biolabs here in the United States of America. You're about to hear some congressional testimony here in just a minute about the biolabs and some of the different stuff that they ended up finding over inside of them. You're going to hear things like malaria. Well, why are you concerned about malaria, right? It's essentially the flu. No, I mean, it is the most deadly strain of malaria that they ended up finding. And by the way, it takes a buttload of antibiotics in order to start kicking malaria out of your system. And because it's not prevalent here in the United States of America, how many people do you really think would be aware that they got sick with malaria? How many people do you think they'd know just have the flu and before they'd go to the hospital, and then they'd know to test and everything? I mean, a lot of people are going to die until they, before they figure that out. The Nick Kurzier says, we got your back. Here's $5 for the legal fund. Well, thank you very much, Nick. I greatly appreciate you guys. Battlefield Boy says, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, sir. Incock Faraday, as always, in here, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. And Knack Dad in the house, gifting out 99 cents. So how do we know that the Las Vegas lab is connected to the one over inside of Reedley, California that got busted 2 years back? Well, the LLC that was registered at the residence in Vegas had the exact same owner as the one over inside of California that got busted a couple years ago. The problem is we heard more information about who that owner actually is and where he came from. And how he even made it in the United States is beyond me. The owner of the labs, by the way, is currently in federal custody of all of them. However, his partners are still at large. They never caught him, never found him, never did anything. Commander Sergeant said, had a gun pulled on me. Can't believe I'm still here. Whoa, dude. What the hell? Who pulled a gun on you? Mary Dean says, hi, Matt and Nannerfam. Appreciate all of you. This is my number one stream. God bless everyone. Well, Mary Dean, I actually added in the number one for you, but let's be honest, it's going to be your number one stream. You're here every single day. Just take a look over some of the crap that they ended up finding, at some of these other biolabs over time here in the United States of America. Pretty scary stuff. You got 2017, we had plenty of biolabs that were actually out and about, and we can bring this up. It's been an ongoing issue. Last year, we had multiple incidents with Chinese nationals sneaking material into the United States, biological material here in the United States, trying to get away with it. Some of them worked at the University of Michigan. And I want to say University of Michigan got over like $30 million between 2015 and 2025 from China. Can you post a way to give to you directly for your defense fund? Don't want YouTube to take it away. Yes, sir, I can do that. I will absolutely do that for you. Give me just one sec. I've got to grab the link in order to get that to you guys. So give me just a sec and I will grab it and I'll get it on the screen for you. It's the talking and the all of that stuff as I post. So yeah, for those of you guys that are unaware, in the million of a $5.3 million lawsuit, as always, for stating my own opinions on a national security matter. So I am collecting donations at this time. Looks like I just retained some new counsel, which I'm very happy to have. And as soon as that's official and the ink is wet, I will tell you guys who they are. If you guys want to donate to that legal defense fund, it is right there. You're more than welcome to. I'm going to go ahead and pin it up at the top of the chat if you guys would like to. Just stop watching Sergeant Major Mike Vinny interview for you. Holy cow. Well, thank you, man, because you're not going to want to miss this. So first, I could go over the Las Vegas, PD and what they ended up stating, but in my opinion, this is actually probably a hell of a lot more important for you to listen to.
National security issue that requires the immediate attention and immediate action from the United States Congress. An illegal biolab was just raided in Las Vegas, and it is directly linked to the secret Chinese biolab found in Reedley, California in late 2022. That lab was oozing with E. coli, HIV, malaria, and other dangerous pathogens. The lab just raided in Vegas was operated by the same LLC and same Chinese nationals as the one discovered in Reedley. Now, we know a lot about the one discovered in Reedley because I requested a report from the House of Representatives, an investigation which resulted in a report by the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. And I want to share some of the details of that report, but I'll start with its conclusion that no one knows whether there are other unknown biolabs because there is no monitoring system in place. Those were the words of the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party in 2023. Well, now we know there was at least one other such lab, but we still don't know how many others because the legislation, the bipartisan legislation that I have proposed with Representative Costa and Valadeo has not yet been passed.
Yeah, that's probably the most shocking part about all this crap to me, that years ago we ended up finding this biolab in California and that nothing got done about it. Like the government didn't put any new systems in. The guy ends up getting caught over inside of Canada, comes over to the United States of America underneath a different name, opens up like companies, secures store like actual property, and then starts instilling these freaking biolabs. And they're connected. And so we knew about this crap back then. And I'm about to show you where it was reported that the Las Vegas lab was connected to this one back then. Viper says, I thought when you take down a business, it would be smart to raid all the properties they own. I guess cops that complain about Hollywood know better. Bingo. Ghost Hybrid. How are American universities allowed to take Chinese money? Well, they're supposed to report it. That's just it. They're supposed to report it. And that particular lab that the University of Michigan was running, where those two individuals worked at from China, they actually shut it down after this, after those people got arrested last year. They shut that lab down. And then I want to say it was the Department of Education actually filed paperwork against the University of Minnesota telling them that they found irregularities and that they need to get it up to par. So if you're taking foreign money, you must disclose it. And it looks like the university might or might not have fully disclosed all of it. Mary Dean says, Matt, I am so sorry for what you are going through. Just know that I am here for you. Can't silence the truth. This to me is an attack on our freedom of speech. Matt, keep up the fight. God bless. Thank you, ma'am. Greatly appreciate your support. And believe me, we're going to keep up the fight. I want to keep this video rolling because this congressman lays out some serious stuff.
So here's what we learned about this lab that was discovered in Reedley and that has now had a counterpart discovered in Las Vegas. It was run by an international fugitive from China named Jesse Zhu. After running various state-connected companies in China, Zhu moved to Canada where he set up dozens of corporations to, quote, steal valuable American intellectual property and unlawfully transfer it to China. The Supreme Court of British Columbia found he committed, quote, fraud on an epic scale, resulting in a $330 million judgment. He then fled to America, assumed an alias, David He, and set up several more companies, including the one behind the Reedley Biolab and now the Vegas Biolab. He was indicted in 2023 and has been in federal custody ever since, but his partner and other associates have not been. Now, the Reedley lab was discovered in December of 2022 when a code inspector came upon a suspicious warehouse. Inside, she found many Chinese nationals wearing white lab coats, glasses, masks, and latex gloves, along with thousands of vials of biological substances and 1,000 mice. It was later learned these were transgenic mice, genetically engineered to catch and carry the COVID-19 virus. A further inspection found.
Oh, by the way, all those mice were dead. Not a single one of those mice were alive. Not a single one of those mice were alive. And remind you, this takes place in California. And do you remember what I talked to you guys about just a couple months ago about how California hands out real IDs to people with like pretty much no paperwork? Remember that, because this lab was filled with Chinese nationals in lab coats with rats or mice that were infected and dead. Is Friday too late? No, it's not too late, my friend. There honestly is no cutoff for my legal fund because, how do I want to say this? I'm pretty in the hole on it. So you can donate like any day of the week to that one, my friend. Yeah, but I've got to pay up to the law firm by Friday. So yeah, all good things. All right, let's keep it running.
Blood, tissue, and other bodily fluid samples and serums, along with thousands of vials of, quote, suspected biological material. Some of the vials were labeled with the names of infectious agents, while others were labeled in a code that was never deciphered. Now, at first, the CDC, this was during the Biden administration, refused to investigate, and they even hung up on local officials who asked for help. After Representative Costa got involved, the CDC did an inspection and found at least 20 potentially infectious agents, including HIV, tuberculosis, and the deadliest known form of malaria. Yet, the CDC did not bother to test any samples, even those with unknown contents, making it, quote, impossible for the Select Committee to fully assess the potential risks that this specific facility posed to the community. The Select Committee report calls this baffling. Later, local officials discovered a refrigerator in the lab labeled Ebola. Now, while the supposed purpose of the lab was to sell test kits, in fact, all the company did was buy counterfeit kits from China and resell them in the United States. Thus, the committee found there was a lack of apparent legitimate or even profit-motivated criminal motive in the operation of the facility.
You guys hear that? Bunch of Chinese nationals, Ebola, tuberculosis, COVID, everything. And they had a bunch of dead mice, and then they had some fraudulent Chinese test kits that sucked. And allegedly, they were trying to develop ones to sell here in the United States. That's what we call a cover story. Or they're trying to determine transmission levels on these mice without buying up a bunch of stuff here in the United States. Either way, it's bad. And this isn't the only lab. And like I said, this company is connected to the one in California or in Las Vegas. This exact one he's talking about had the same freaking owner as the one in Vegas. Same owner as the one in Vegas. And the one in Vegas was registered at somebody's house. And they ended up raiding basically the garage out back.
Meanwhile, Jesse Zhu, its operator, was receiving unexplained payments via wire transfer from Chinese banks. As I mentioned, the report concluded that we don't know if there are any other unknown biolabs because there's no such monitoring system. So that is why I am calling upon the House to act quickly to pass the bill that I've introduced along with Representatives Costa and Valadeo to find any other such labs that exist across the country and assure that they are shut down. The Preventing Illegal Laboratories and Protecting Public Health Act would address gaps in federal law outlined in this congressional report. Specifically, it would require distributors of highly pathogenic agents to maintain federally reviewable logbooks of all transfers, including purchaser identity and intended use, for at least 3 years. It would strengthen oversight by mandating federal review of the number, location, and
I think it goes without saying, I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. It goes without saying, why wasn't this done beforehand? Why hadn't they already done that? And why has our government been so inept for the last few years that this couldn't get done? And even over last year, we ended up having like Chinese people sneaking stuff in. Like, this is something that was known. And it wasn't something that was just kind of known on the surface level. This was like known. This is a big deal. I want to thank Miguel Bargan coming in, giving out 10 Speak the Truth memberships. As I continue to scroll down here, we also have Easy Shifty. Wish me a happy birthday. Thank you, sir. This is some 007 level evil world domination stuff. Yeah, it is. And it's right on the cusp as we're getting ready to strike Iran. And if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you know exactly why we're about to strike Iran. Not because we hate Iran. I mean, we do. And we hate the Ayatollah and we hate the IRGC, but they're heavily supporting Russia and China. And we need to have a regime change happen. I don't think that we're only going over there, which I don't change my assessment. Even though Trump came out and said, we'll see, we're talking to them, I still don't change my assessment. Old Man Weiss says, have you talked to Jake the lawyer from Unsub? No, I have not talked to him. I have not. Honey Badger, appreciate you. Thank you very much. It's Friday. Oh, yep, and I'm all caught up there, I think. Thank God. I always fall behind on super chats. I want to make sure I'm up there. Now, this is where it starts to get weird. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Tony Segura. This man has a lot of data, and he compiles a lot of data, and he gets a lot of information. I'm not even going to try to steal his work. I'm going to promote the hell out of it. Listen to what he said. He talks about the biolabs. It is one of the strangest and most underreported biomedical scandals in recent memory. Again, I reported it after a whistleblower tip in December of 2022. This is the guy that reported it. When a city code enforcement officer discovered the lab while investigating what looked like unpermitted warehouse operation. Inside, they found refrigerators, freezers containing thousands of biological samples, medical equipment, and suspicious materials, and it was publicly revealed during the spring and summer of 2023, but the story's deeper implications have been largely sanitized by mainstream reporting. A company called Prestige Biotech, which had taken over operations from a defunct company called Universal Meditech. When authorities went in, they discovered about 30 refrigerators, freezers with thousands of vials labeled containing things like E. coli, hepatitis B and C, and other pathogens. Roughly 1,000 white mice, many of them dead, that were reportedly being used for some kind of laboratory testing. Unlabeling biological material, some unknown substances stored, COVID-19 kits, etc., medical equipment. Documents linking the operation to individuals and companies with addresses in China and Nevada, including the lab discovered in Las Vegas in 2022. Lily's Grand Mabel, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate your prayers. 2022. They had the documents linked to that lab, and they literally did nothing. You know how I know they did nothing with the documents that were linked to back then? Because I listened to what the Las Vegas PD said. You want to hear it? I do. Listen carefully.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Kevin McMahill with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. With me today is the Special Agent in charge of the Las Vegas FBI Field Office, Christopher Delzato, and the Clark County Fire Chief, Billy Samuels. You'll hear from all three of us. I want to provide a more detailed update and walk you through how this investigation unfolded. Just a little over a week ago, LVMPD received limited information indicating that laboratory equipment and potentially hazardous materials were being stored at a residence in the northeast part of our town.
Oh, a little over a week ago, they received limited information about it all. Tiller 14113 says, don't you think we just build up air defense assets in the Middle East for a big retaliation from Iran? Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're doing. We're moving more assets into the region. We're moving a new aircraft carrier over there. And I do believe that we're building up our aerial defense assets because of an Iranian attack. on U.S. forces. Iran came out the other day and said that they were going to attack and kill, like with certainty, U.S. soldiers if the U.S. ends up striking them. Nicole and Carly coming in, gifting out 5 EUs. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys heard this, right? The only reason that went down is because they got a tip. That's what he said. They just got the information of it. They just got the tip a week ago. And then they probably had to go get the warrant signed and everything else. That's freaking appalling. Beyond appalling that that's what ended up happening. The lead entity, continuing, was Prestige Biotech, but it had no active business license in California. Its president was listed in corporate filings as a Chinese national with correspondence addresses in China and Nevada. That's the even worse part. The corresponding addresses in China and Nevada. Operation appeared to be connected to Universal Meditech, a Fresno-based biotech firm that had its licenses suspended and recalled test kits after FDA violations. Weird. So that's 2 of them that they knew. Reports suggested ties to entities with the Chinese government linked funding channels through the media, and authorities didn't deeply investigate those connections after Gavin Newsom intervened. Reports suggested ties to entities with Chinese government linked funding channels, though the media and authorities didn't deeply investigate those connections after Gavin Newsom intervened. Data. Here's your scary part. Data from shipping manifests suggested there are over 500 labs of a similar nature spread across the United States. C88 coming in, gifting out another Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, sir. The day after they raided the lab in Vegas, they went back here in California. Witnesses state that the FBI was carrying out boxes from the location. Look at where this is set up. Some random industrial crap hole. Fox McCloud, I'm not driving a Subaru anymore. I used to own one. Big thing that people end up missing. But yeah, getting sued for millions while driving a Subaru. Believe me, the vehicle is comparable, though. I actually think it's a mom's soccer mobile. That's just me. But anyways, they went back over there and they took out documents. Witnesses stated in local news reports that they watched them pull out boxes of information. Now, why, if there was nothing for America to be worried about inside of that biolab, would they go back to California to a place that the mayor says has been empty for years and retrieve a bunch of boxes of information? That makes literally zero sense. Except that there was probably more connecting documents and information that were inside of there that the freaking government didn't grab, and they didn't do their due diligence, and they didn't figure out where everything was at. And now we have congressmen that are whining and complaining, as they should be, that the government didn't do its best to protect the people. And again, we got numerous cases of Chinese citizens coming into the United States over the last year carrying these biological materials. And we're about to attack Iran. We've been so focused on the dumbest stuff in the United States that we let a major national security matter slip directly through our fingers. I don't care if it results to nothing at all. After the whole COVID-19 debacle, you would absolutely think that we would have actually looked into that and actually done our due diligence, gone through every single piece of paperwork to make sure that they weren't trying to freaking poison America and the West again. They said that they didn't find anything of concern other than the vials and all of that crap in the back of the house. Great. They also raided it over in Vegas, a place that has visitors coming from all around the world. If you want to poison the world, if you want to set off a freaking pandemic, do it in Vegas, because people are flying everywhere, flying in and out from all over the dang world every single day of the week, 365 days a year. I cannot believe that that went uninvestigated. Casey Smith, thank you very much. I always appreciate the birthday wishes. Meanwhile, the world, what have we been watching while the Chinese have been sneaking in biolabs? This.
Walking up to the room, and I press the elevator button, and all of a sudden I feel myself being jostled, and people trying to grab me and put me in handcuffs, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And they said, "We came to arrest you." And I said, "Well, who are you?" And then finally they identified themselves, and I said, "If you are who you are, then where's the warrant?" And they didn't have a warrant, so they had to wait for someone from outside, an FBI guy, to come in to show me a warrant on a cell phone. And by that time, I was trying to, figure out what was going on to get my bearings, and they dropped all my stuff. My glasses had fallen on the floor. I'm like, I can't read that. So they had to pick my glasses up, and I read it, and still, what does that mean? And then there was a bunch of guys, and they took me out.
Yeah, we're whining over Don Lemon being arrested. That's what the left in America is concerned with, Don Lemon being arrested, and Don demanding that he have a freaking warrant. That's what we've been paying attention to. It's absolutely sad. Renee Good, everybody ended up jumping over and throwing a huge freaking fit. People are now reporting that Renee Good was in fact found inside of those signal chats. Her story of just showing up to freaking drive around. She dropped her kid off at school. I think this was her family had stated it. She dropped her kids off at school and then happened to run into it. It was just there watching. She was just watching. Turns out her and her carpet munching wife all hanging out watching ice. So gay. Yeah, nailed it in the comment right there, buddy. So gay. That's what they've been concerned about. Gets even worse as we start looking into it. Fraud over inside of Minnesota was confirmed. Got several judges that ended up stating that, yep, we've got government funding that's coming out of there. And schools all across America over the last several days. This one's over inside of Indiana. This was their protest. I mean, take a good look at that. There's your school over inside of Indianapolis that did a walkout against ICE. I got a feeling none of these kids were suspended. You probably got teachers out there supporting them. Looks like they're making all of these signs, and it looks exactly like the other ones, with all sorts of stuff that you would find in the art class and things like that over in the high school. Chandel Alway. So, Matt, are they trying to poison us using vaccines that are contaminated? What do you think they are doing? I mean, it is bad enough that drones can do some major damage with chemicals. You're correct. They could also just spread it. ATMs, freaking handrails, slot machines, freaking all of that crap that's over in Vegas, all over the place. They could go out and spread that crap. Highly infectious diseases inside of Vegas. You got a ton of people that are out there. Do it inside of the airport. Do it in all of these other locations. You're going to end up having problems. Commander Sargent wants you to know that he thinks lesbians are cool if they are hot. Wasn't the only school. Langston Hughes in Atlanta ended up having another one as well. They had one yesterday. They had one, was it 2 days ago? Langston Hughes. It's like all of the high schools in America went woke. Incog Fair Day, it's time we treat China like the threat that they are. No property ownership allowed. I agree with that statement. We need to stop allowing China with this BS property ownership. We're worried about everything that's taking place here, these fake outrages. Remember how I told you that we have foreign influence in the United States of America that is affecting our youth when you look at TikTok and everything else, and how China controls TikTok, and that's why it's bad. They push certain narratives. You can even see it on other woke sources and things like that. When you've got the Communist Party doing things like that, the CCP doing things like that in America. They've infected their brains to the point that they're actually assaulting police officers as they were driving by at these high school protests.
New video tonight from the Mesa Police Department. It shows the takedown of what appears to be a student protester during a school walkout on Friday. Here it is, edited by Mesa Police. The video was posted on the department's Facebook page. According to Mesa Police, during a walkout at Poston Junior High School, students entered the roadway and threw water bottles at officers. The girl in the video is facing charges of aggravated assault. Mesa Police say another student was also arrested for throwing items, but has been released to the juvenile court system. The police also posted a statement about this, saying they respect the right to peacefully protest, but they will not tolerate criminal behavior or violence toward officers or anyone in the community. New video tonight from the Mesa Police.
Well, that's a problem. All that going down over our schools. Parents are pissed. They're yelling. They're not going to send their kids into the schools, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't either if I was them. I would be absolutely livid with my kids going out to do all that crap. Over inside Chicago, we have another problem. Chicago mayor ended up signing into law the other day a bill that allows mandates a task force that's responsible for showing up to immigration enforcement activities, documenting who the supervisor is, trying to document who the officers are, recording it all on camera, pulling incident reports, and on top of that, providing any medical attention for individuals that they find that are hurt on the scene. They got to call EMS. It directs them to call EMS so that they can document any injuries that they might have. Down here at the bottom of this video, I ended up including an excerpt from the executive order that he ended up issuing. Listen to this. Whereas, taking a public position in support of abolishing ICE affirms Chicago's leadership in defending local authority against federal overreach. This man flat out put in the bill that they support abolishing ICE while demanding his law enforcement document and investigate ICE operations. I don't think he understands either that those federal investigations that they're conducting, local law enforcement doesn't have to be allowed on scene. They don't. Pretty sure the feds can tell them to kiss off. Listen to what this man says.
The ICE unnoticed executive order is a step towards justice. This executive order will make Chicago the first city in the country to set the groundwork to prosecute ICE and Border Patrol agents for criminal misconduct. Because we need to send a clear message. If the federal government will not hold these rogue actors accountable, then Chicago will do everything in our power to bring these agents to justice. Yes. As part of this order, our police department will document ICE and Border Patrol activity and attempt to identify officers on the scene. This evidence will then be preserved and, at the direction of my office, will be referred to the state's attorney's office for potential prosecution. The Trump administration has made it clear that they intend to return to our city in force in the coming spring. This order is a step towards making sure that Chicago is prepared. We will continue to learn from and work with other cities across the country as we all confront this moment. As Dr. King predicted more than 60 years ago.
Oh yeah, invoke Dr. King for when it goes down to the enforcement of illegal immigrants bringing in biolabs into the United States of America. You frickin' moron. Out of frickin' control. Out of control. Invoking Dr. King. Let's see what he compares Dr. King to.
Chicago can serve as a model of nonviolent resistance that has the power to arouse the conscience of the nation. And so today, we see a full manifestation of the consciousness of our nation coming to life by way of the greatest city in the world.
Okay, you're going to quote Dr. King while your city's out there acting like a bunch of insurrectionists and assaulting ICE agents. Got it. That makes perfect sense. Old Man Weiss is asking me about water source. It is water with electrolytes. I know you're very concerned about it. No, look, putting the biological material into the water source, yeah, could actually work if they end up doing that. And it depends on, from my understanding, temperature of water and everything else. Those temperatures have to be properly regulated in order to make sure that, the virus actually survives, depending on which one it is. Ghost Hybrid, is the Trump admin doing anything about the schools besides eliminating the Department of Education? Not that I'm aware of. No. Showed a video yesterday to you guys of one over in, Cascade, Washington, where the middle schoolers, it was like the Cascade Middle School, where the middle schoolers are literally standing in the middle of the road with their bikes. The police are on scene, allowing these children to endanger their lives, and they do nothing. Freaking disgusting. Sean Hughes, the Dems using the Nazi and Hitler youth book. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Because we can deport illegals, but if they infect the minds of our youth, we're going to have issues. Now, luckily for y'all, I actually ended up pulling some stats. And I ended up pulling these stats straight from the FBI. Minnesota offenses between 2021 to 2025. Looking from the year 2021 forward to 2025. How large of a drop in crime overall, and these are just the assaults. These are aggravated assaults. How large of a drop in the aggravated assaults with federal law actually being enforced inside of Minnesota, how large of a drop do you think they saw? In 2021, there was 10,832 aggravated assaults that were reported. In 2025, it dropped to 8,457. 8,457. You had over a 20% decrease just in aggravated assaults. Just in aggravated assaults, over a 20% decrease. And the crazy part about it is when you look at assaults, most of the time, and I'll blow this up big so you guys can see it, you have personal weapons that ends up sitting at the top. They're talking about like your hands, your feet, your knees, your bows, your forehead. Personal weapons, 2,135. Handguns accounted for 2,000 of them back in 2021. Firearms, 1,167. And here's the wild part. Look at that. Look at that freaking drop. Handguns, 1,279. Down from 2001. You almost got like a 50% decrease in that sucker. Firearms, 775. Anything other than a handgun. Down from 979. Exact same thing. If we end up enforcing the laws appropriately, we're going to be better off. American Indian people inside of Minnesota are 25.7% safer. White people are 17.1% safer. And black people, well, they fall down to only 10% safer. And that's not because of, the ethnicities. They all saw about like a decent decrease as it goes down. But white people and Native Americans, for some reason, were of one of the biggest affected by this. Men and women were split right down the middle. Amazes me. And just the other day, Trump ended up putting out a brand new message telling the federal law enforcement officers to make sure that they are enforcing the law even freaking harder. Stop allowing these insurrectionists to follow you around. If they're obstructing justice, we expect them to be arrested. Guess what?
Hey, I need you to back up. You need to back up. Stay safe. They're pointing handguns at the drivers in the vehicle right now. Hey, get back. You guys need to stay back. You can record, but you gotta be back. Step on the car. Hey, open the fucking door. I need you to back up a little bit more. Hey, get back. Hey, get the fuck back. Back. Turn around. Hey, no, don't get on the road. Stay back over here. Okay. You guys can take pictures, you just need to stay back.
They're actually doing it. These videos are a dime a dozen now. You can find tons of these things online of ICE agents that are going around and arresting these criminals. Fox McCloud says getting sued for millions while buying gas station vape pens is insane. Just kidding. Love you. No homo. If I was still driving the Subi, man, yeah, I mean, I could see why you would say that, but it's simply not the case. It's just really not. Agents are still getting assaulted, like pretty much on a daily basis. I want to say this video ended up coming out of Arizona. You can see the ICE agent over on the left that's getting assaulted by a female. He just throws her to the ground, doesn't even care. And then he just starts like squirting OC spray at everybody, telling them all to get back. They're really offended. So all this stuff is still going on all over the United States, and they're acting like, you know, they are these non-aggressive types. Now, meanwhile, as America is focused on all that, I present to you Iran. That's taking place over in the Capitol. That building that went up in frickin' smoke is so frickin' huge, ladies and gentlemen, that it's being reported that you can see this sucker from anywhere within Tehran. Anywhere within Tehran, you can see this sucker on fire. Now, why is this a big deal? Because previous to Israeli strikes and previous to U.S. strikes over inside of Tehran, we had a bunch of sabotage operations that were taking place. And people looked at it and they said, you know what? No, that's just weird. I was sitting here and I was tracking the different facilities and everything else that ended up going up in smoke, going up in flames, and everything else. So while America is focused on the Chicago mayor, while they're focused on idiots over inside of LA, definitely not on Chinese biolabs, we have a massive war that is about to kick off. Trump came out yesterday and he had made the statement, you know, I just don't think that, well, he came out and he made the statement that Iran is looking to negotiate, and that if they do negotiate on getting rid of the uranium, good for them. But if they don't, very bad things are going to happen. We now got 3, potentially 4 strike carrier groups operating over in the region, moved tons of surface to air assets and everything else. When I told you guys that in order for us to attack Iran, we need to have certain things that are in position before we do so, this is what I meant. These, what you're seeing here, Lord only knows what's really inside that factory, are what we start calling shaping operations. Over the last week, I've seen several reports coming out of different apartments having gas leaks again, taking out Iranian officials. So now we've got gas leaks taking place. We've got big factories being burnt to the ground. And to me, it seems like we are setting ourselves up now. So we might not have too long to go, another week, maybe 2. I'm trying to remember how many different weeks ended up going by back during the 12-day war of this crap taking place before that strike happened. And it's actually being quite effective, as a matter of fact, because Iranian officials are fleeing Iran. They're fleeing Iran. And finally, I found somebody with a bit of common sense, and he happens to be Israeli, explaining why it's taking so long. Now you don't get to hear it from me. You get to hear it from a retired general.
And the president will carry out, the attack. And there is a lot of planning. The planning is very, very complicated because it's not about planning how to attack a military site or a nuclear site. When you talk about change of regime, this is a completely different scenario. This is about attacking symbols of government. This is about how to weaponize the people. This is about media, about how to target the leadership, how to conduct a process of change of regime. It's very, very complicated. A lot of planning, and this is why it takes a lot of time. So yes, there is a build-up for a big war, which will hopefully not be too long, and will be decisive, and will bring this regime down. This approach that says, look, there are many proxies. You can fight Hezbollah and fight Hamas and then fight the Houthis. Let's go and destroy the source. The source is the Iranian regime.
If you can speculate on what a U.S. attack could look like, would it be B-2s and bunker busters? Does Israel need the U.S. to attack? Like, how much strategy and insight can you give us about what the attack would or could actually look like?
Because I think that it needs to be something very, very sophisticated. If I would have to attack, I would make sure that there is a complete disconnection between the regime and the forces. You have to attack the communications, the TV, in a way that the regime cannot communicate with other areas in Iran. Of course, go after the leadership itself, after Khamenei and all the leadership. You have to really secure the people themselves. So you have to attack all the headquarters of the Revolutionary Guards, Basil, all of that. And you have to think how to mobilize the people and weaponize them and get them to really also participate, because the key isn't just about destroying the military or the nuclear or even the Revolutionary Guard. Is about mobilizing the Iranian people. And this is the big question. How do you mobilize the people who have witnessed, 60,000 people murdered and hundreds of thousands injured and incarcerated and so on? It's a big challenge, and they need to know that it's all out. It's, as President Trump said, help is coming, and help needs to come and stay. Cannot be a short attack and that's it, and then start negotiating again. It needs to be really destroying this regime.
So I am not the only person that thinks that. You have to get a ton of different assets in place, and it's going to be a sustained attack on Iran. This is not going to be like the 12-day war. You got to get those revolutionaries in place. And as I told you guys, no successful revolution, no successful turnover of a government is going to take place without the support of the military either. That means what we should see when this kicks off, and we'll know if it's working, is we should see different military units defecting and actually fighting against the IRGC. Big problem though, IRGC is the one that's controlling all the weapons. So if the IRGC isn't giving out all of these different weapons, and even the IRGC commanders in the units, etc., they're not the ones giving out the weapons. And think of how much control they have to have. Like how horrible that place is for them not even to trust their soldiers with weapons, because they mandate everybody carry them. That's why the IRGC is out there murdering people. So they might even have to worry about an invasion before they start handing out guns. Now, the administration is going to know this. The people that are planning this are going to know this. And we're going to see a heck of a lot. We're going to see a heck of a lot of stuff going down over inside of Iran before the first bomb actually ends up getting dropped. And the issue is whether or not the U.S. forces are going to be prepared to defend themselves. I know the Iranian people that are watching this right now, all the diaspora, are very ticked off that the U.S. said last month help is on the way. Because you have thousands of people getting murdered over inside of Iran. There's estimates coming out of Iran, upwards of 100,000. Their government admits that, yeah, it's plausible that at least 30,000 have been killed. So the people are anxious and they're pissed off because it's been almost a month since Trump said that help's coming and told them to stop killing Iranians. And Trump has been holding up the I stopped him from hanging 180 people thing for a long time, and it wore it. It's worn thin. I've been listening to like different Iranian spaces over on X, listening to people that were actually in support of Trump's policy and everything else. Here is what everybody needs to understand. Trump has a duty to the American people first before the Iranians. That means if we could have prevented U.S. soldier deaths and we didn't to save the lives of Iranians, the American people will hold him to that. That's a problem. No country has had a revolution without thousands of people dying. Not one. And Iran is no different. Difference is this has been taking place over there for last, 2 months-ish now. We're pushing up on when all of these little protests started. Month and a half. It's going to take time. That's a lot of different assets that need to be moved in the region. Iran's got a lot of ballistic missiles. They got a lot of stuff, and we got a lot of interest over in that region. You're talking about upwards of 50,000, somewhere around 50,000 U.S. troops in the region whose lives are at risk that we need to make sure strategically we're positioned to defend. It's one thing to move a carrier strike group. It's another thing to move a THAAD system, get it on the ground, have the people deployed, have it set up, have interlocking coverage of those different systems to protect all of those different interests that we have in the region. It takes time to move those equipment on the ground. It takes time to then take that equipment, put it on the back of a truck and move it somewhere, then to have it set up and have all of this crap going on in order to protect those to make sure it's taken care of. That's why. It's going to take time. Now, if Trump doesn't take advantage of this, he's going to be grossly mistaken. It's a senior Iranian diplomat that's being reported by Iran International. It's Iran International is like a counter-regime narrative newspaper that's ran out of the UK. They came out and said that this senior Iranian diplomat, whose name I can't even pronounce, has like tucked tail and ran. He dipped out of the country. So there is signs that people are worried about it. Now, over in the United States, we've got other things that are going on. Laura Loomer actually brought this up this morning, called Qatar City, that's being put in over inside of Arizona. Another epic style area, if you will, when you look into it. And they're literally calling it Qatar City. And you have these two big companies that ended up putting massive investments, $165 billion from TSMC and $7 billion from Halo Vista. She says that it is a total of $1.5 trillion that supplies Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, broadband, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's supposedly the purpose of it. The money that's going in there, she says, I want to make sure I'm not telling you this wrong. The money that's going in there is allegedly coming from different Qatar Islamic banks to establish Islamic banking in the United States. She says that they're building a Sharia compound next to a massive semiconductor facility, and that everybody's backing it. She also blames Congressman Abe Hameda, Arizona's 8th district congressman, for going over and visiting Qatar. You guys see it right up there on your screen there. Doha, November 27th. Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, blah, 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 blah. They're all happy that they showed up to go over. And now we have this massive investment that's now being put in there. I believe that's old Abe right there from Arizona. So you got a U.S. congressman going over to Qatar because they want to invest billions of dollars setting up this Islamic center. You've got Tucker Carlson spewing false narratives extremely misleading narratives, not false, extremely misleading narratives that definitely seem like they're coming from Qatar. And so it seems like Qatar is running this whole mouthpiece. Now, if Donald Trump doesn't end up attacking Iran and getting a regime change over there, you better believe that the United States is under control from Qatar and Saudi Arabia. For reasons I couldn't tell you, I have no idea. These are the same guys that gifted the airplane to the United States of America that I was like, I don't care. They can gift an airplane. It goes into the freaking thing. We're going to work it. We're going to reload it, whatever. Same guys that gifted the airplane all the way back at the beginning of last year. But now we're sitting down with all of these U.S. officials and we're setting up massive freaking Sharia cities, which is beyond me. Why we would do that. And the Islamification of America, ladies and gentlemen, has made its way into our public schools. Last month, I talked about a different Texas school that ended up supporting all of this madness. Listen to what this guy has to say about what happened at his high school.
Okay, so I'm Marco. I'm the president of the high school Republicans at Wiley East High School. And today there was an organization called Why Islam, and they were giving hijabs to Muslim girls out throughout the high school, and they were giving out Qurans, and they also had pamphlets about Sharia law.
They were giving out hijabs, Qurans, and a pamphlet on understanding Sharia law. At a high school lunch. How the heck does this happen in the United States of America, where you have Qurans and pamphlets on Sharia law, along with hijabs being handed out? This stuff is happening because Americans aren't paying attention to what's going on in this world. Can we please stop importing fifth column operations for money? Ghost Hybrid, you and me, buddy, we're there together.
And other Islamic things, and they were giving out these bags, and I had a discussion with the women that were there, and we're trying to understand what's going on.
And it was during the school day, right?
Yes, it was during lunch.
During lunch.
And we typically have colleges come out, or we have our clubs have tables, but we've never had a faith group, to my understanding. Okay, so I'm Marco.
Yeah, you heard it right. Where'd it go? I got to get it up there. Qurans and pamphlets on understanding Sharia law. That, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is a gross violation of the separation of church and state. How the hell can you have any religious organization showing up to a school and handing that out? MTX 45 says, how much is the soul of our country worth? I don't know. I have no idea. But I know it's in pretty serious danger right now. The more I dig into all this and the more I look at all of this, the more I discover that our country is in serious danger. Chinese biolabs, that's not a conspiracy theory, man. What they're doing is beyond me. Why did the U.S. turn a blind eye to it? And then you look at Tim Walz, who spent a portion of his life living over inside China. He's in power over there. Iran supports China. Qatar wants us to not attack Iran. And they're paying a buttload of money trying to influence over here in the United States of America. And we're still waiting on the Muslim Brotherhood Foreign Terror Organization designation. Like, this is so beyond acceptable, what we have going in right now. This is not this is not conspiracy theory crap. This is literally what we have going on inside of the United States of America. And people have had their heads buried in the sand complaining about social justice. When you go over to social media right now, you're going to see people that are focused on multiple things, the Emmys or the Grammys, whatever the hell it was over this weekend. I don't even care. It's a bunch of Hollywood elitists that are like just licking each other's buttholes, telling them what a good job they did in the movies that nobody watches and music that nobody listens to. I don't care. You also got people that are just raging about all of this crap that's going on as far as it goes down to the immigration enforcement, et cetera. And I told you guys my biggest concern and the reason why I think Trump did the way he did things coming in and enforcing that immigration was to make sure that before we started acting overseas, that we were getting enough of these people out of our country before we did. When we went in and we ripped out Maduro, we didn't just piss off Venezuela. We pissed off Iran, we pissed off China, and we pissed off Russia. And before we did that, we had to make sure that we got as many of these dang people out. And now we've got these Chinese biolabs. If we end up taking out the Iranian regime and China unleashes the 500 plus reported biolabs on the United States of America, dude, they don't need to touch us. They don't need to send a nuke. They don't need to do anything. Our economy wouldn't survive another COVID-like shutdown. The amount of money that got spent, the trillions of dollars of debt that we ended up going into, and the rippling effects throughout our economy would allow China to just jump up and take over. They go take Taiwan, which nobody's going to be even concerned about at that point in time because the US dollar is going to be crashing, absolutely falling freaking down. Why are people not paying attention to this, man? It is beyond me. I'm not telling you not to pay attention to what's going on in the schools. I'm telling you that you need to be a good parent like this guy is right here. Maybe chill on the F-bombs he drops, but be a good parent like this guy right here. And then after that, start looking around. Start voting accordingly, like the midterms and everything else. Because that's where we always typically end up losing the country. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I just want you to use your dang skull. And if there's people out there that are not enforcing the law, for crying out loud, that keep Chinese nationals that are, making biolabs in the United States of America, a huge network of them, maybe you should be less concerned with the illegal aliens that are here and more concerned about the next coming and upcoming pandemic that might hit if all of that's actually true, that was their intent. It's not a freaking conspiracy theory that they're operating these things here in the United States. That's real. Their intent behind them, though, is unknown. And the government's pretty silent about it, and so's the media. And that within itself should concern you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in today. Peace, love, happiness. God bless. I'm outie.
Let me tell you what the fuck they won't be doing today. A lunchtime rebellion. Half these kids don't even know what the fuck they're walking out for. Walkouts just don't happen. That shit gets encouraged. They get quietly greenlit by adults who should know better. And loop in the ones who just take their kids out to fucking protest. And you wonder why your fucking kid comes back with a fat ass knot on their head. It's because of your stupidity, goofy bitch. If this shit was about skipping school for literally anything else, consequences, rules, write-ups, detention, the whole fucking playbook. But slap a political label on it, and suddenly it's let the kids express themselves. Some of these fucking adults are the same ones who just swear they're just facilitators. Not if you're herding kids into political theater. You're not facilitating shit. You're indoctrinating it. Own it. I send my kids to school to socialize and to experience life, learn a few things, not to get tossed into a full-blown ideological fucking clusterfuck just because some grown-ass adults can't keep their personal beliefs out the fucking classroom. This is why parents go nuclear when districts start acting shocked that they're pissed. All because you don't get to decide when my kid stops learning just so that you can score some fucking moral points. You want to teach history?